We all talk about equality and justice, but what are we doing about it? What action should we take to change the status quo? This may be an unequal one. Do you care? And why should you care? Good evening, friends. Welcome to day 19 of 100 Days to a Leadership Transformation series powered by Team Brand W Combinator of GCPIT. On behalf of GCPIT, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this wonderful evening. We had great speakers and great topics in the last 18 days. We are proud to have another amazing speaker today with us to talk about Sustainable Development Goal number 10, reducing inequalities. Before introducing the speaker, let me introduce myself. I am Aparna G. Kumar, the Global Co-Chairperson of GCPIT. There is a Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade, a not-for-profit registered in India and South Africa. The mission of GCPIT is to handhold, empower, and support SMEs globally. What are the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs? For those who are not aware, the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs or global goals are a collection of 17 interlinked goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. They address the global challenges we face, including poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. The SDGs were set up in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly and are intended to be achieved by the year 2030. They are included in a UN resolution called the 2030 Agenda, or what is colloquially known as Agenda 2030. To enlighten us on goal number 10, that is reduced inequalities, we have a very special guest with us joining all the way from Scotland. Dr. Poonam Malik is an academic entrepreneurial research management leader with extensive experience of working in innovation, enterprise, economic development, and partnership within life sciences, health, and technology in academia, industry, and globally. Board member of the Scottish Enterprise with Scottish Development International and Scottish Investment Bank, with the responsibility for 540 million euro annual budget and skills development Scotland. Dr. Malik is focused on stimulating economic and inclusive growth with business and universities link-ups. She is an active member of Investing Women Angels, Scotland's only all-women angel investor group, supporting female entrepreneurs. For delivering global impact, Dr. Malik was recently chosen among the top 100 alumni from 17,000 alumni in University of Edinburgh's Business School's 100-year operating history. A finalist in Scottish Women's Awards 2019 for a Social Leader of the Year award and Scottish Women's Awards 2018 finalist for Services to Education Leadership Award. Dr. Malik has held positions in the Universities of Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Cumbria, Lancaster. Dr. Malik was awarded the title of Associate Professor of Biomedical Sciences in 2015 and a Fellowship of Royal Society of Biology in 2017. Thus, is an elected Fellow of the Royal Society of Biology, FRSE. Dr. Malik holds a PhD in Biomedical Sciences from the University of Glasgow, UK, an MBA in Strategy and Leadership from University of Edinburgh Business School, UK, an MSc in Biotechnology, Animal Sciences from Indian Veterinary Research Institute, ICAR, and a BSc degree in Chemistry and Zoology from Dayalbagh Educational Institute, India. Dr. Malik brings expertise in the life sciences, infectious diseases, global health, and technology. Her interests are strategy, leadership, innovation, gender equality, diversity, and inclusion. She is the Fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh and has recently joined as Head of Investment at the University of Strathclyde. She is also one of GCPIT's 100 Global Women Leaders Award winners this year. We are proud to have her in our Team W Combinator, supporting us all through our initiatives. We are proud to have you with us, Dr. Poonam Malik. Let me proudly introduce our speaker of the day. There is none other than Dr. Poonam Malik. Over to you.
Thank you, Aparna. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite, and it is an honor to be here. And for that introduction, I suppose I did send you a short one, and you are still using my long one, but embarrassing. But yes, and few changes have been, and you've said, as I've recently joined as University of Strathclyde as Head of Investments, and also Royal Society of Edinburgh was added to the Royal Society of Biology. So just correcting the facts in case for that. But thank you, Santosh, and thank you, Aparna, for inviting me. And the last year and a half has not been easy on anybody. And world has gone through different stages and different phases of coronavirus COVID-19 cycles, lockdown, opening, people losing. And current phase, while UK and Scotland seems to be opening up, in India, it's particularly seems to be quite a tough, challenging time at the moment with the recent situations. And hence we are here thinking about how we can support our colleagues, our business, small and medium business enterprises, but mostly human beings above all, who are leaders at home front and leaders in their work situation. Losing loved ones, family members, colleagues can never be easy. And we all need that resilience to cope. But I think this is the human nature, that if we just have to pick ourselves up, build ourselves again and move on. And the situation that we all face is never same. And the question is that it is never equal, and which is my topic for today. So thank you for having me over here. And I would like to address Sustainable Development Goal 10, which is reducing inequality. The title that I thought was quite appropriate from today's point of view is An Unequal World. Do you care? But why should you? Because looking even in the very current situation, if we see who's getting most impact of the current situation, who's having access to the vaccines, who is not able to get it, and who should be responsible for providing the basic health care, and the situation to lift in terms of monetary and mental health situation. And those are the question which leads us to us that do we all live in an equal world, or is it an unequal world? And sadly, as we look at it on the world, so the Sustainable Development Goals, which addresses this reduce inequality, though much can be said about it under the Sustainable Development Goal 10, and it fits among many other sustainable development goals, because basically reducing poverty, healthcare, education, provision, many of them can be addressed together, and then we will reach the situation. The Sustainable Development Goals, as they were formulated in 2015, they are a global blueprint for ending poverty, protecting the planet, and ensuring that all people enjoy good health, peace, and poverty by 2030. And why do we have Sustainable Development Goals? Because prior to that, an initiative was started with Millennium Goals, and they seem to unfortunately have not been achieved. Hence, by United Nations, this effort was taken. That because in this, the question that I quoted is that it should be enjoyed by all people, not that some people who have the privilege to be accessing it. So reducing inequality and ensuring that no one is left behind, these are integral to achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 10. But how can we make sure that, and what is the type of inequality we are talking about? Do I have the right to have the same thing that another person on the planet have? A child who's born in this world, do they have access and do they have right to the same set of privileges or access to basic amenities? And when we look behind, each of us have experienced something in life where we can reflect back. And if I look back at, and this is very known fact, is that there are different types of inequalities in the world. There are inequality based on income, gender, age, sexual orientation, ethnic origin, disability, religious beliefs, classes, and opportunities. And just taking them in that reverse order, if I would say opportunities, we are all not given the same opportunities. And that you would be wondering why I'm saying that is that some of us have won the embryonic lottery. And what I mean is that it depends on embryonic lottery is how and where and to whom we are born. And that provides us, some of us, a key to a golden door of a prosperous, successful life, while others, due to no fault of their own, have lost in this embryonic lottery race and happen to be born to poorer or less fortunate parents. And now it's not a child who chooses where they are born, but where they are born in this world, to which family, to which part of the world, to which country, which society, that decides their entire lifestyle sometime. And despite working hard, people are in some parts unable to cross that barrier threshold. And that is what I mean by inequality. And in the list that I said, based on age, gender, income, sexual orientation, these are all prejudices. This is what unconscious bias or conscious bias that people perceive. And still today, all these continue to persist across the world. So the question that I'm trying to share with you is that why should we even care about inequalities? Is it because personally we feel passionate about them? Or is it something broader and bigger than that? It is because inequality weaken the growth. They encourage poverty to the higher level. They reduce this fulfillment and self-esteem of people. And inequality also encourage delinquency, minor crimes, illnesses, poor health, and eventually the environment's deterioration, because a person who doesn't have access to everything will try to take what they can get. And as a result, end up in some instances harming the environment. And we should care about inequality because then we cannot achieve sustainable development if we exclude any part of the population. Because remember, in the beginning, I said the goal is to not leave anyone behind. Now, some fact learning on inequality for you today on this Friday, 4th of June, 2021. Bottom line is, it's hard to hear for all of us because we believe in this feeling of equality, fair world, but we do live in a very unfair world. Now, remember this and learn a fact. Do you know the richest 1% of the world have more wealth than the rest of the population of the world? That is 6.9 million people combined have less wealth than 1% population, which is the richest population in the world. Richest 10% population in the world possesses almost half of world's total income. So what income is produced, it goes only to 10% and 90% have to share the rest of the half of income. And this is for those female audience in today's session or who are watching from elsewhere, but also a poignant point for my male colleagues is that just 22, remember 22 richest men own more wealth than all the women in whole of Africa combined. Now, what kind of a justice is that? And what have they done that they deserve than entire continent's 50% population more wealth? So OECD countries in it together report highlighted that this gap of income, wealth keeps widening. It's not reducing. Growth has disproportionately benefited higher income people while lower income households have been left behind. And this is the same story in COVID. Those who had the means and access to money, some of them have managed to pivot their businesses to online opportunities because they had a higher platform to start with. Whereas lower income groups have been prevented from realizing their human capital potential, which is bad not only for global economy as a whole, it's bad for the increasing gap, but also for the basic needs, because those who started from a lower threshold or lower platform, they were fighting for their daily existence. They were fighting due to the loss of loved ones, loss of jobs, loss of people in the family, business, income. They had, and possibly in lockdown situation where they couldn't go out, it has become even worse. The second type of inequality is that inequality among different parts of the countries in the world. That is another persistent cause for concern, because not every country holds the same amount of wealth and they don't have the same GDP, they don't have the same income. As a result, even within countries and in between countries, nations with stronger economies like USA, UK, Germany, they have stronger voice on the world stage and are considered more powerful. Why? Because they seem to have trade links with other richer countries. They can discuss at a different platform with each other, and they form influential groups like NATO and G7. And unfortunately, these inequalities have existed in the world for centuries. Great nations which we look up to today and say, oh, they are superpowers of the world, they have been built on the foundation of slavery. Despite some positive sign, this reducing inequality towards in some dimensions, this is not reducing in some countries. And despite preferential trade benefit status for some countries, inequality still persists and global governance suffers, with people from poorer countries having lower influences voice in decision making. And that is what we need to look at and take care of. And now another form of inequality, which exists not only at the global level, at the societal level, but even among the households. In India, our family societal structure in anywhere in the world, you will suffer due to simple differences of being born in a different gender. Now, I'm not talking about the being born in a different part of the country, the being born in a different part of the world or a different part of the postcode lot. This is being born in the same household, but instead being born as a girl instead of a boy. That can have a dramatic lasting impact on society. Now, who said that some of us are more equal than others? Because women get paid much lower salaries while also bearing the burden of childcare and unpaid home and care work. Oxfam Charities report for 2024 World Economic Forum in Davos stated that women and girls, now note this statistics, women and girls contribute 8.28 trillion pounds. That is $10.8 trillion to the global economy. Which is worth a total of 12.5 billion hours of unpaid care work per day. And that is 3 times the worth of total global tech industry. A somber pause for thought. How much of that has been contributed, but that doesn't come to light in any form because that's unpaid care work. And nobody is saying that that's not essential. That's where the society and structure is based on. But what the question here is that why is it one gender job? And then why is it that they end up suffering in the long run? Or inequality can be a racial issue, where people from ethnic minorities can be unfairly targeted by police in certain parts of the world just because of the color of their skin. As recent a case, most of you would be familiar, and George Floyd's case in America brought this issue to the front and initiated the Black Lives Matter movement. Somebody would say that nature made us equal. They made us equal on the gender issue, male, female. They also made us equal on the race issue, but still the racial prejudice exists in the world. And sadly, this is not a positive light to say, COVID-19 pandemic has deepened these inequalities across the world all over, hitting the poorest and more vulnerable communities the hardest. And some of us have felt it. We have felt it in our families, friends, circles, our communities. And it has put a spotlight on economic inequalities and fragile social safety net and health systems that are there. And that leaves vulnerable communities to bear the burden of the crisis. And this is what we need to take care of. Because at the same time, social, political, and economic inequalities have amplified the impact of the pandemic. The other point to note here is that sustainable development goals are often mistaken as pertaining to only poorer countries, that countries which are global south, developing countries, third world countries like Asia, Africa, Latin America, Oceania. But actually, that's not the case. Some of these inequalities exist in the richer north, developed countries quite well. Gender inequality, income, racial prejudices, they all exist. And they can provide a realistic approach for rich countries like Scotland to navigate through and beyond the COVID pandemic. Recent evaluation during the COVID situation has shown that while the pandemic has provided a sort of positive short-term impact, which we will say maybe energy use has gone down, emissions and air pollutions have gone down, so the climate has improved. But what it has done, on the other hand, is that significantly impacted, sadly, negatively on societal health, economy, work, business, and cultural aspects. And those are the issues that are going to hit us a long time. The impact has been disproportionately among different groups, particularly on inequalities among diverse and marginalized society, which has been even further marginalized, and health and well-being, as you and us, most of us are experiencing, that well-to-do people can still go out and try and not work and maintain social distancing and in housing. Whereas if a person need to go out to earn a living that day, they are somehow, in some cases, not managed to adhere to those restrictions. And one of the central objectives of the SDG is to address inequality. The vastly proportionate impact of COVID-19 on the different groups tells us that our health, education, and economic systems across the world are failing to serve significant part of the population, because despite being rich, some of the bigger and powerful countries did not manage to stop COVID at its door, because this was an impact and a virus which actually doesn't need the passport. It is not managing to be controlled by the borders, and it travels across, which is why our health systems and unless one of us is safe, none of us are safe. Unless your health is safe, my health is not safe, because this is what is the danger of a pandemic is. So even in case of vaccine, some people are thinking about the hoarding mentality, or taking care of people within their borders of the country to vaccinate them. But if the borders are open, travel is allowed. Unless and until everyone in the world has access to vaccine, no one is safe, because this can resurface again. And to look at some of the things, what we need to do is to move forward from using SDGs just to close the inequality gap. We have to address and build resilience in the basic system. We have to see where the challenges were, what was non-existing, and how we can, because one of the positives that had come out in COVID situation is this community feeling. People are more worried about others. They have started to realize that our health is interconnected, our economies are interconnected. So it's not that one part can thrive and survive, whereas others cannot. So to looking, as OECD Secretary General said in 2015, that inequality can no longer be treated as an afterthought. We need to focus on the debate on how the benefits of growth are distributed. And rising inequality is not a natural or inevitable condition. It is a byproduct of our policies, our politics, our laws, institutions, our social cultural norms and practices, deficits of our governance, and unequal wealth distribution and unequal power distribution. And that's the result, that the inequalities exist and some people suffer while others manage to get by. So if we have to tackle these issues, we have to overcome that. We have to look at changing policies and norms, which is what United Nations is encouraging each and every one of us at the individual level, at the organizational and national level, to take some initiatives, to think about what we could do about distribution of wealth, distribution of income, as well as our health systems. How can we make them more robust? How can we manage and mitigate the risk? So we can address vulnerable people's needs and also their inclusion. Now, inclusion is a key point here, that anybody who is with us and around us, we need to be mindful and being inclusive rather than saying we are all equal, because not everybody's needs is different. So that is the critical point here. Addressing inequality does not mean treating everybody as same, because everyone's situation and needs are not the same. So designing special and differential programs based on specific needs. What I need living in a different part of the world might not be the same what you need living in a different part of the world. Our requirements might differ based on our geographic challenges, our local and regional challenges, and also the situation or the business economic challenges that we are facing, or even climate challenges. Although climate change is a global issue, but there are variations in different parts of the world. So we need to be mindful of those differences and then provide solutions according to that need. And that is what is fair and just, rather than just saying we are all equal. So making sure in business not to sacrifice people for profit with initiatives like fair trade certification. And the other interesting point and important point is here that the UN Conference for Trade and Development and WTO for International Trade Center indicated that support from small and medium-sized businesses is crucial in developing and pursuing fair trades. So a key criteria there is shifting focus from shareholder to stakeholder approach. We should not be only focused on who holds the share and who is the king here. What we need to think is that who are we serving, who are our stakeholders, who are our clients, who may be interested in it, and then driving that community wealth building. And the other point, key criteria, which is close to my heart, and then I work and share lots of thought in it, is positive, responsible, impact-led, ESG-driven. Now, ESG is these are the criteria which caters to impact, social and governance-driven factors and matrices into investment into diverse and ethnic minority women founders, because again, it's a well-known fact that women start a business but end up losing of growth because they are unable to secure external investment into their business. They do well with family, friends, early initial rounds, but when you require large amount of money, when there is angel investors or big venture groups funded, that's where the females face the challenges of finding funding and growing their business. That's what we need to tackle. So a unified policy environment, a joint approach of coordinated and collective response of government agencies, be it at national level, regional level, local level, and even global level. But besides the organizations, it's the academia and private sector coming together, joining hands, looking at each point where they bring the value in these solutions, and the non-governmental third sector, NGOs, which are the key point for connecting to the community and bringing and liaising with government and the private sector is required. Allocation of fund to scale innovative solutions, adoption and implementation of actions, access to universal healthcare, which is what we are needing in this, is really key at this current moment. So the message that I would like to say today is that with the world now trying to emerge from the worst of a pandemic, we should be guided by sustainable development goals to break cycles of inequality, adopt new technologies, and implement progressive local environmental policies. Now, you must be thinking that all that is fine, but what can we do at our level individually to tackle these issues? And I'm sure we will come to discuss some of the points, and you might have questions about it as I've not yet looked at it. But for example, what has happened in the COVID situation is that digital technologies have brought work into our houses. Some of us are working from home, some of us are managing businesses from a smaller setup. This has, on one hand, improved travel situation or people where they can do business and improved inclusivity. But we need to look at it. Does everyone have equal access to Wi-Fi, broadband, so that they can do business from there? And that is what the basic solution of needs require. So my call of action today, those who are listening, watching, or maybe watching it later on in your own time, is about some practical steps that each one of us, you including me, including, can take to reduce and tackle inequalities at individual and organizational level. So we need to assess resources for humanitarian help to fight these inequalities and say, what do we bring to the table to general natural disaster? How can we reduce them? Also, as male colleagues, because in all positions, it's our senior colleagues who are sitting. They need to promote and eliminate gender gap. They need to promote their female colleagues to take care and give strong support and multicultural education. As it has been said, that education is the key. So if we try and educate all children, be it girls and boys, because that girl education is a key point, to provide that and give strong support to that, but also be more tolerant of other cultures and other societies, to be inclusive. As well as the final point I would say is that protest inequality of any form when you spot that. And that starts with each and every one of us noticing, being aware of around us. Because if you are seeing, simple example, I will say, if a company or a business or an organization is inviting people to speak, why is there are all male panels? Why can't be there female panels? If you look across the management, there are all senior men there. Are we building enough pipeline of females? Are we promoting girls to study the same science and technology subjects that we are promoting boys? Are we letting girls to do and reach their full potential by allowing and letting them progress to do any job that they want to do? So the global community has a vital part to accelerating progress to tackle these inequality issues. And we must, and role modeling, and mentoring, I'm a big fan of that. You can't be what you can't see, so you have to promote that. But for that, my plea to my male colleagues is that at this moment you have that upper hand because you are in the senior position. So there is a terminology called sponsorship, where instead of just promoting and supporting the next person who is another happen to be your male colleague, support a female colleague and nominate them for the next position, next speaker thing, next business opportunity, next business trip. Similarly, in the house, instead of just thinking that the boys should study, the money should go, they should eat the first dinner plate of food, I think we need to start looking at differently and say both the children. And that is where the basic equality starts. So we must turn this inequality emergency into an opportunity, and then only, because we don't want to waste 50% of our world's talent. That is where it is. We don't want to differentiate between old and young, because the young people hold the ideas and the key. So we need to include them on the forum to give them their voice. We can't say that, and we should not be biased against old people. So it's like, that's being aware of what is around us, because when everyone is treated equally and fairly, we all prosper together. So hope stabilizes while fear paralyzes. So let's sell hope. Let's move forward with inclusive planning. And Darwin said it perfectly. It's not the strong that survive, it's the more adaptable. So I know that we are all very resilient, very adaptable, but that is what this tough, challenging pandemic time are showing us. And global inequality affects us all, no matter who we are, where we are, where do we come from. Therefore, we need to reduce inequalities at our local level, in our societies, be more inclusive, be more positive towards others, be more empathetic towards others. And at the global level, people need to start looking at the policies and systems and processes to make them more fairer. But the criteria here is that we need to monitor and measure for the change we wish to see, because what you don't monitor, what you don't measure, you can never change, because you never know what is wrong with the system. So as Mahatma Gandhi said, and all of you are familiar with that quote, be the change that you wish to see in the world. So my plea to you as the global citizens, as good societal parents and the community leaders, business leaders, is to promote interest in science, innovation, entrepreneurship, and lobbying the government for a favorable policy environment for adoption of fairer, equal, and greener solutions. Let's turn our minds to shaping correct policies and reinvention, as leaving no one behind, whether it's a girl child in the family, it's a female colleague in the organization, or it's a female leader at the top of a business organization. It's never a long-term strategy. It is going to come back and bite you. So purpose and understanding why, what we do, that we do, is going to define our future. And I definitely believe together we can all do it. So what are we waiting for? Let's do it together. Thank you all.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Poonam. That was an awesome session. Great tips for being inclusive and creating a change at different levels. I really love the concept of sponsorship, actually. I will come at the end with a question on that. And as you said, as inequalities have always existed for centuries, we all have been victims of inequality at one time or the other. And I'm sure this session would make everyone think and work with us to create a positive change in the society. And as you said, COVID-19 didn't need a passport and it has reached every nook and corner across the globe. In a way, nature has made us realize that we are a global family. So in a way, it's a huge opportunity for us to come together and create an equal world. And we all can do our part. We all can take initiative at the global levels, at the national level, at the state and district levels to create a change. As Mother Teresa said, we may not be able to do great things, but we all can do small things with great love. That was awesome, Dr. Poonam. And let's see if anyone has any questions. I think one question is from Mr. Ravindranath. Which is the country in today's world where the inequality among human beings is less, and how did they achieve the same?
So I think there are different measures to measuring inequality. And as I said, inequality has at least a list of 7, 8, or 9 factors which could be different. And there are differences on each level. So some countries might be progressive in one and differences in less, like somewhere maybe the gender is not the main issue, there is a race main issue. On the other hand, it's the sexual orientation is main issue, where girls can't go out and drive. They have to cover themselves top to bottom, although COVID has made us all cover our faces. And so it is different, but there is a Gini index, which I was saying that measures income inequality between the countries. And then which countries have managed this better? Again, the systems are different. So there is obviously socialist system or communist system or capitalist system, and there are different priorities. If you have more wealth in general across the country may be richer in comparison to a poorer country from a different part of the world. But within that country also, again, some people will be richer versus other people. So it is very hard to say that where it is, but in general, Scandinavian countries have adopted better public health policies, public health system, better social care system, which is why if you will see Norway, Denmark, Sweden, they tend to have very high quality of life. People live longer. They even made a quota that all their public health or public sector organizations will have 50% or at least 30% women on board, and they managed to achieve it because they made it a good. But there are different ways you can nudge it, you can encourage it, but if the policies are designed, it's like now recently being said a lot about New Zealand with Lucinda Ardern coming in and progress. So because there is a differences and biases against maternity leave, women not able to progress because they have family, and then they are now showcasing that you have children, you bring your children, and there are but that requires a system that you need to have good family friendly policies, leave like that. So there are various measures, and some countries who have looked at it from a holistic point of view of all citizens, they seem to be doing better.
Yes, there is a question from Santosh. He's asking Dr. Poonam, suggest one project which we can begin immediately.
I think, yeah, I'm sure you're already doing multiple projects, but in India, I would say the biggest difference at the moment I still see is the difference between the women and the girl education. So, and education, even from a broader society point of view, if you educate one girl child, you will educate the entire family, because then they will understand the value of education, and they go on to have their children who teach them values and they encourage them. And that if they earn if they are educated and they go on to join a job which pays well, then the family status raises, and because they have been educated, their mind broadens and they are less sort of wary of certain changes in the society. So I think I would say that making parents awareness of equality for girls, and starting early in the school level, but at the organization level, what you are doing by supporting females or women leaders, and making aware of our male colleagues taking initiative initiatives to say, what can we do to take care of it? That's the basic cause. So with good health and with basic education, we can manage lots of those, because then goes the awareness of issues around us.
So I think we are also doing the same, like through this 100 Days of Leadership Transformation. We are bringing women leaders from across the globe as role models to our girls to show them that this is possible. So I think in a way our sessions are also doing the modeling thing, what you said. And I would like to ask about the sponsoring thing, because that has a concept which is, I just really love that concept, because it was a new thing for me.
Okay, I'll elaborate a bit. I see Santosh has commented. Yes, it is sad that in 21st century, sitting here, we still face those same prejudices, and it is societal reasons that, even as you say, if a girl child is born, instead of feeling happy in certain part of the world, people still feel sad. And it's not that they don't want a child, it's, I think they're thinking long term, what can happen, what they need to go through, they need to start saving, how will they earn for their education. So instead, we should probably feel that if they are educated, they might not need all those things, but still that goes not only the education of just the colleagues and the girls, but it's also the education of society, what can be achieved. And I have seen that personal change. Once the senior generation sees it is possible, most people let their guards down. When they see a girl child can go out, she studies, she's mature, she does a job, and then she earns income, and that income is much better than one-time dowry. So as a result, the dowry system is slowly moving away. And what's the difference? If you go, as it is, you're leaving your family behind, marrying into another family, you're leaving your surname. Where are the differences going to stop? That how much are you going to tackle those challenges? And then on top of that, you're not doing any favor, because you are getting a partner for your son. But that is what awareness is needed. And if few more people started, slowly those bad habits eradicate. So that is definitely health and education, I would say, especially for the developing countries that we call, where prejudices exist, where I mean, health systems are good, but we need to follow the rules in certain cases. We need to listen to what we are told, and as a result, that happens, and that comes with education. So that definitely you're doing good there. Coming to your point, Panna, about sponsorship. So there is a thing, role modeling and mentoring is, as I said, you can't be what you can't see. If you cannot see that the women can reach the management level positions, they cannot be the leaders in the organization, then you'll not aspire to. So that's what is needing a role modeling. Mentoring is when women who have been through those steps, who have faced the challenges, or not the challenges, but they have been successful, them passing on their knowledge, their tips to the other people who are disadvantaged. And I'm taking girls here or women here simply because, as we say, that they are sort of less than 1% in the FTSE or sort of listed companies. That's why they're there. But it can be anybody, whoever is marginalized. It can be race, caste, religion, anything, whoever is marginalized, bringing them into mainstreaming, treating equally is the challenge. The sponsorship is the, I will give a simple example of a content that generally we say old boys network. I mean, and why is it people used to say that most of the deals will be done in gymkhana or golf courses, because people go out, and that I'm talking about here is because male colleagues, they are the people who were making these big business deals, because they are the senior owners and senior MDs and VPs and CEOs in these organizations. They meet the colleagues who are like them, and they also happen to socialize in these settings. And that's where, if you get along somebody you like to do business with somebody who you like, who's like you. So if they see somebody who's simply like them, that cycle just goes on. Whereas what I'm saying is that then there is no pipeline of women leaders. The reason this is drying up, because they are not entering, that door is not there for them. And it's not that people are inherently biased against stopping them coming, but they don't see anybody around. So when next time a good project comes along, a cushy opportunity comes along, they look in their circle, they look in their around, and then whoever is the younger colleague or the next upcoming colleague, they will say, oh, that's a bright spark, put him on this job, he'll do it. Whereas if that similar opportunity is available for female colleagues who are there and they actively simply like mentoring, they take or choose in their pipeline to say these are 4 or 5 women leaders who have promising. Obviously, you need to be good and talented, but if they see that they are promising character, and then say instead of them, you always are not going to nominate a male colleague, you're going to nominate a female colleague, they will achieve that experience of running a business or a project next time. And then once they prove their worth, they can go and move on to the next management position. And that's what is the learning. So women tend to be not very good at that, obviously. So both need to sponsor, but decision making is predominantly 90% in male hands at the moment. So that is why I said it's the male colleagues' role that they need to take up as a sponsor.
Right. And in organizational things, yeah, I have seen that when women start performing, then it's like sometimes male colleagues feel insecure, and there starts many issues. So how can we handle that?
Sorry, say that again. I missed the question.
And during in organizational structure, that's what I was asking. See, when we start performing, or they start growing, male colleagues, most of the time I have seen that we get insecure, and there starts problem. So how to handle that situation?
And that's the interesting point, that when it's 95% male leaders, nobody raises a finger on an eyebrow to say why it is there. There are 2 female leaders in sequential roles, and suddenly you say, oh, we've been having female leaders nowadays, what's happening? So the question is, because it's a minority and because it's not normal, it's still abnormal situation, people notice it. I would say my dream day would be when we won't need to talk about gender. We won't need to look at it, is it a female or a male or a woman or a man? It is because you are there because of your talent, because of your skills, because of your expertise. And that is what you should be counting at. But because it's a different scenario. And what you said is that if somebody is promoting, and that's what is the negative aspect about the quota system, because then it puts people without the talent or category into that. You don't, which is why I'm not saying that that is the right solution, but if some change is not happening, to break that barrier, to start the pipeline, either you need to have a specialist program to say we are going to promote them, and whoever is talented on their basis, they're going to come up, because you cannot suddenly at the top of the pyramid, you cannot find people who are not well made for that. So you have to start making it right early in their journey. So for that point of view, it's a specialist program. They go through the same rigorous structure. Like I say, you can get people up to the interview, but in the interview, who performs the best gets the job. It doesn't have to be at that level that who is appearing for the interview. But sometimes in shortlisting, because people are biases, and there is umpteen amount of research which shows that looking at the name, looking at guessing their age, guessing their gender, caste, religion, everything, people get biased, and it naturally gets thrown out because we like to work with people like ourselves. So removing those barriers and then providing the opportunity, and then see who performs better, and then they come, and then it's a skill level.
Thank you, Poonam. Mr. Mohandas is asking, referring to the embryonic lottery in India, there are some negative aspects also due to the caste-wise reservation. Many opportunities may be overtaken by these groups. How do we overcome this?
So I'm not quite sure if I understand the question correctly. So what I was meaning by embryonic lottery is it is not to simply caste. It also depends on the religion. It also depends on the poorer and richer part of the world. If you happen to be born in America and in that into a richer part of the town versus a poorer part of the town, that is still embryonic lottery, because there will be differences. Those people from the poorer part are not going to be making the next topmost business leader, because that they don't have that much inherent wealth. In India's context, if you say, if you are taking example of just a caste system to say people happen to be born into a different caste, higher caste, lower caste, or the caste system, and that is leading, again, that's not in anybody's hand where you are born, because a child didn't choose it, as I said before. But in that case, we need to look at the society. What was the original function of having this caste? That was designed at a time when we needed a system to make the work structure so that everybody had a defined. Today, we don't join jobs based on what caste we are born. We join jobs based on what skills have we acquired, what education have we studied. So in that case, we need to play level field and we have to stop looking at that. But the embryonic lottery is equally bad for gender, because if you happen to be a born woman, you are automatically less chances of earning a degree level study, or less chances of securing a job, or even in business, less chances of securing funding for your business, and less chances of securing equal salary. Because if you are a woman, there is inherent data, research shows that you are paid less. And why should that be? Because you are not doing a different job. So if two people are doing same job, they should be get paid same. So that's the question, if I get it correctly. If I'm not, then could you please explain the question again?
Mohandas, I hope your question is answered. Are you there? Anybody else would like to ask any question? I think we don't have any questions. Right? I hope Dr. Poonam has answered your question, Mr. Mohandas. So if there are no questions, let's wind up the session. That was an awesome session. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Poonam, for taking some time out of a tight schedule. I know you have been really, really busy. Thank you so much for giving us a little time out of your busy schedule. I thank our audience.
Yeah, thank you, Aparna. And I said that we can talk about these things, and the whole point of it is being aware of the challenges around us, taking personal responsibility about doing it, but also initiating that movement and the momentum to do something. As Santosh asked, what can we do? It's the initiative, but it's also empathy, understanding where the other side may be coming from, because people are fighting their own fight in this hard times. And sometimes we expect one thing and that may not happen. So we need to put ourselves in other shoes and trying to remove as many barriers to this who are weaker, poorer, or financially sort of stronger, they are destabilized because of various war-torn regions, they will always suffer. And do we want to live in that situation? Because then what we are facing today will always happen. So even taking learnings from COVID situation, none of us are safe until all of us are safe. And same situation for that until all of us are happy, none of us are going to be happy, because you cannot remain happy in isolation. So hope that is the only message that I wish to convey.
Exactly. Devindranath sir is saying, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Yes, that is exactly what Poonam also said. Unless all of us are happy, we can never be happy, right? And I thank you so much, Dr. Poonam, for that awesome session. And I thank our audience too for being with us all through this series. We hope these sessions are useful to you, and they will help you create huge changes in the society once the pandemic is over. And as Dr. Poonam mentioned, let us be the change we want to see in the society, as Mahatma Gandhi said. Hope you liked today's session, and if you would like to connect to Dr. Poonam, you can go to our website, gcpit.org, and you have an option to connect to her through mail. If you feel you are an exceptional leader and you want to join us in our mission, please contact us at gcpit.org. And see you all tomorrow with another very special guest. Till then, this is Aparna Kumar signing off. Stay safe, take care. And Dr. Poonam, would you like to add something more as a closing remark?
No, Aparna, thank you for inviting me. What GCPIT is initiated this change, what you're trying to contribute to these gloomy times when people are suffering, to provide a pathway out of it, build resilience, and provide a spark of thought, because these ideas start as a great initiative. And keep doing the good work. It takes a lot out of, as they say, in terms of organization, energy, thought process, and but I'm sure these are the journey of 1,000 miles or 100 miles begin with a single step. So even if a small initiation change can happen, then that would be it, worth it. So thank you.
Thank you so much for those nice words, and it really encourages us to do more. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good night. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.